I know you're out there. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
The KrisAnne Hall Show.
Any varmint that crosses that lady's path has met its match. Come
on! Rise and shine, liberty-loving patriots. Welcome to the KrisAnne Hall Show. KrisAnne Hall here, KrisAnnehall.com. Liberty over security, principle over party, truth over your favorite personality. This is a sad morning. This is the morning that we have lost a dear patriot. Lavoy Finicum was killed last night by the FBI. A man, a father, a husband, a grandfather, a man who was just simply standing for what he believed in a non-violent way. And his life was taken. We believe, and it has come to our attention, that unnecessary force may have been used, resulting in the death of Lavoy Finicum. We are trying to gather the facts necessary and investigate any potential wrongdoing, and we will use every resource available to bring justice to any wrongdoing or unnecessary use of force committed under the color of that FBI authority. I don't know if you've heard the video or the audio of the eyewitness testimony, but it's on the Bundy Ranch Facebook page if you'd like to go there. Lavoy Finicum, according to the eyewitnesses, was killed in cold blood by the FBI. According to the eyewitnesses, Lavoy had surrendered with his hands in the air, placed them behind his head, and was shot by the FBI. We need to control the narrative on this because I'm already seeing the media report this as a shootout. Let's be very, very clear. Point number one. There was no media there. There was no media there at the time. And so any information that the media is getting, you have to wonder where it's coming from. Because you see, there was no media there. There were only two parties there. The FBI and the people that the FBI had invited to come to a meeting for negotiation. I want you to hear that. Ammon Bundy and his men were invited by the FBI to go to a meeting of peaceful negotiation. Ammon Bundy and his men were looking for a peaceful negotiation. They got in their cars and went. The FBI never let them get to the peaceful negotiation, but conducted a traffic stop. That's curious to me, a traffic stop. Were they speeding? Did they have a headlight out? Were they missing a tag light on their vehicles? What exactly was the premise for the traffic stop? Because the last time I checked, these men had yet to be charged with a crime. No indictments. No warrants. So I'd be curious to find out through our investigation what exactly was the traffic stop that was conducted. And I'd be curious to know if that report will ever be written. And I'm watching the media, and I'm already seeing the reports. Shootout is what they're calling it. A shootout. Let us be very clear. In order to have a shootout, you have to have two parties shooting at each other. There were no shots fired by Ammon Bundy and his men. None. They were going to a peaceful negotiation with the FBI. Or so they thought. I want us to be very clear. This was a setup by the FBI from the get-go. They did not want to, in their credit, okay? Let's just give the FBI a benefit of the doubt here. They did not want to engage the refuge. They did not want to bring any type of force to the refuge. So instead they isolated the men under the guise of a peaceful resolution. Blocked off a road for 60 miles once they got them in there. And then pulled them over. The men put their hands in the air. They surrendered peacefully. And they were still shot at. Leroy Finnegan, according to the eyewitnesses, was shot with his hands behind his head. I want to ask you something. Who's the aggressor here? Who is the aggressor? If a man is shot with his hands behind the head and no shots were fired back, who is the aggressor? And I want you to think about some things very carefully. Some things that we know to be true. And I want you to connect the dots. The refuge where the people were protesting is called public lands. They were occupying public lands, a public building on public lands. That's what the sign says. Welcome to your land. Public lands. What is against the law about occupying public lands and public buildings? What is violent about occupying public lands and public buildings? And please don't believe the hype of the media. They did not have the place barricaded with mortars. They did not have rocket launchers. They did not have tank turrets. They did not have the armament that some of the media is posting. It's simply all a lie. They simply carried their firearms, as the Constitution guarantees them a right to, as God gave them a right to protect their life, their liberty, and their property. It should not be radical to see people carrying guns. It should not be radical to see people exercising their rights. Is it radical to see someone standing on the street corner and speaking their mind? Well, I suppose in this day and age it is, isn't it? which should be no more radical to see someone carrying a gun than it is to see someone standing on the street corner speaking their mind. But what happens when you turn rights into radical? What happens when rights become radical? What happens when the government occupies land they have no authority to occupy? Because you see, we have this narrative that Bundys were illegally occupying land. They called that public land. Okay? That's what the federal government calls this. Public lands. But you see, if it's illegal for the people to occupy public lands, but not illegal for the federal government to exercise a control over land by force, when it's completely unconstitutional to do so, what kind of world do we live in? Where lawful is illegal and unlawful is legal. You see, it doesn't have to be lawful to be legal. The federal government owning land may be legal, but it is not lawful. It is completely contrary to the Constitution. And peaceful protests are how we bring these things into focus and into attention, because we need to take back the narrative. We need people to understand that the federal government is forcibly now. They have proven that to us, that they are willing to forcibly, unlawfully take our land. And we need more peaceful protests. We need farmers and ranchers who are sick and tired of the federal government and their puppet media dictating the narrative. I am absolutely sick to death over the disgusting display of our media. And I'm calling out Fox, and I'm calling out Breitbart, and I'm calling out all the people who fake it when they say they are for the conservative constitutional people.
KrisAnne Hall Show. She's Liberty's lobbyist.
John Adams wrote a letter to his wife, Abigail, and he said these words: I am more sick and more ashamed of my own countrymen than ever I was before. And that is my statement to this fake conservative constitutional media. Fox News, you are a farce. Breitbart, you are a farce. I went to Breitbart today. It's still news about Trump and the debate. America has a man down. And the only thing that these puppets can talk about is Donald Trump. I am more sick and more ashamed of my countrymen than ever I was before. I am calling you out. I'm calling you out for the false media that you are. You are controlled, and the people need to see that. You see, I know what happened in Burns, Fox, and everybody else. I know you had reporters there. I know for a fact that your reporters were sending stories to you and you refused to play them. I know that for fact, and I'm calling you out now. You are disgusting. And the blood of this man is on your hands. These people were trying to be peaceful. And you were so puppet controlled that you could not even show the people of America that they were engaging in a peaceful protest. Oh, let's guarantee something. If they had been jumping on cars and burning down buildings, you'd have been there like white on rice. But because we actually had people who were being peaceful, who were doing things in a peaceful way, you stuck your heads in the sand like a bunch of ostriches and refused to report. Your reporters on scene were frustrated. I know that for fact. And you are hiding the reality of this situation from the people of America. And I wonder, will you now dictate the FBI narrative as truth? Will you now use words like shootout? Will you now use words like militant and violent protesters and resistance? Will you use those words? Because if you do, they're lies. And you will be shown for your hypocrisy. Thomas Paine talks about you in his essay, The American Crisis. He says, crises are the touchstones of sincerity and hypocrisy, and bring things and men to light which might otherwise have lain forever undisclosed. In fact, they have the same effect on secret traitors which an imaginary apparition would have upon a private murderer. They sift out the hidden thoughts of man and hold them up in the public to the world. Many a disguised Tory has lately shown his head. You are showing your head, media. You are a secret traitor. And Lavoy Finnegan will be your imaginary apparition that will haunt you with the truth. So let's watch, America. Let's listen at the words that are used and the subtle way that secret traitors try to affect the narrative. I am disgusted. I am disgusted at this media who claims the shield of the First Amendment, claims the shield of the Constitution, and yet will not defend those who are defending it. Will not even give fair access to truth. Why? Because they so love their wealth, and they so love their influence and their power, that they would rather lick the boots and the hands that feed them than to actually bring truth. Please, I hope this is a beacon of light to the people on just how wicked all media has become.
So don't let them steal your light. Don't let them break your stride. There is light on the other side. You'll see all the raindrops falling. It's a revolution.
The KrisAnne Hall Show. She's Liberty's lobbyist.
I want you to meet Lavoy Finnegan. I want you to know who he is. And so I'm going to play for you 3 minutes of Lavoy Finnegan. And you tell me if this sounds like a man seeking violence. A man who was positioning himself to be a martyr. A man who would have been engaged in a shootout. I want you to meet Lavoy Finnegan. This is a video that Lavoy made yesterday afternoon. A video that was posted on Facebook just yesterday. And I ask you, do you listen to this? Is this a violent looter protester? Or is this a man who is standing for what he believes and looking for peaceful resolution?
This is Lavoy Finnegan here at the Liberty Revolution here in Oregon. And today I want to speak specifically to the Paiute people here of Harney County. I know that there's been a lot of concern about the artifacts, and so I need to address that. First off, I want to tell you a little bit of my own background. I was born and raised on the Navajo Reservation. And I spent time amongst the Lakota people, living with them on the Sioux Reservation. And on my father's side, the oral history is that they married into the Comanche tribe, and on my mom's side, into the Pima tribe. And so I think I have a pretty good idea of the relationship between the federal government and the tribes of this nation. First, I want to address the artifacts. Here are the artifacts, or some of the artifacts, just the way we found them. Have not touched them, have not moved them. This is how the federal government has kept your artifacts that you are very concerned about. You hold them sacred, and so I ask, is this the way you want your sacred items to be handled, to be taken care of? The other artifacts here upon the place, we do not handle, we do not move, we keep them safe. It is time that we begin a dialogue, Paiute people here of Harney County. It is time for you to throw off the BIA, to become a completely sovereign, independent nation without the overseership of the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And so let's have a dialogue. Let's take care of these sacred things, and let's begin to have a face-to-face. I have been approached by a number of different members of different tribes that have come and said that they're willing to be a emissary from us to you, since we have not yet been able to get a representative from the tribe to come here. And so I have other members of other tribes coming to me and saying, you know, we will help the best we can. So let us begin this dialogue. I believe in the American people. I believe in the Native Americans. It is time for them to stand up and throw off the federal government out of their own nations. Okay. Having said that, we want you to know that we desire a good relationship. We desire respect. We desire a mutual respect towards you and towards those things you hold sacred. And we hope to hear from you. And that is what I have to say to America and to you of the Paiute Nation of Oregon. And so thanks. And I hope to see you soon.
Lavoy, my friend, we will see you again on the other side. I want us to see the truth. I want us to take back the narrative. Can we take Lavoy's last teaching moments and spread them across the country? Lavoy wanted people to know that the federal government is not taking care of your land as they are trying to convince everybody that they are. They are not taking care of your stuff. Native Americans, they are not guarding your artifacts. They are using them as doorstops. They are abusing our land. How about the turtles that we had to protect and why we had to get the ranchers off of the land? In Nevada, to protect the turtles, only to find out that the federal government was actually killing those turtles in massive amounts. They're liars. They're deceivers. There are many theories as to why the federal government wants us off our land. And I don't know that we will ever know the real, whole truth. But at this point, I want to mention to you that I don't think it even matters. Because they don't want our land to take care of it. They want our land to control it for whatever it is they want to do with it. And they don't have the authority. The drafters of our Constitution, the framers of our constitutional republic, the founders of our American constitutional republic, fought against these very tyrannies so we would not have to. And it's about time that we get educated. I want you, America, to know the truth. I want you to be speakers of the truth. And it's about time we start discussing this. No one had to die. But we can't let this end with Lavoy. I want to mention that I am very proud of my friend Anthony. Anthony was my security leader while I was in Burns. Yes, while I was teaching in Burns, I had a security detail. Not because I was afraid of the protesters, but so that I was not alone, and I could not be taken by the FBI without somebody knowing about it. And so that some crazy, whacked-out environmentalist who doesn't understand that the federal government is not preserving the environment, they're destroying it, they are deceived, they have been lied to, they have been brainwashed, and all of these people talk about preserving the land through the federal government. That is a big fat lie, but they are extremists, they are the extremists, and so I had a security detail for my safety from those people, because I was not afraid of the protesters at the refuge. And I want you to know that Anthony is an amazingly brave, courageous patriot. Anthony is with Coalition of Western States and was sent by Coalition of Western States from the very get-go to help facilitate peaceful negotiations. I want to tell you very boldly, very confidently, without any mental reservation, that if it had not been for Anthony, things would have been completely different. Now I want to mention to you that most of the people have now left the refuge. Anthony and the Coalition of Western States have negotiated their free passage from the refuge. There are people that are remaining on the refuge, and I would ask you to join me in prayer that these people will also be dedicated to peaceful resolution. I am not familiar with the people that remain. I do not know who they are. I have not spoken to them. I do not know what their motivations are, but I believe that we should pray that this will continue to be a peaceful demonstration on the part of the protesters. The federal government has displayed their desire in this. They do not want peaceful resolution. They do not want anyone to know that this was peaceful. If they wanted people to know that this was a peaceful protest, then they would not have been stopping their puppets, the media, from speaking the truth. They would not have been controlling the narrative like they did. So I want to mention to you that we have to take back the narrative and remain peaceful in our efforts. If you are going to Oregon, please go with the understanding that we want you to support the people and support the efforts of the farmers and the ranchers in peaceful demonstration. We need more farmers and more ranchers to stand up in peaceful demonstration. Because you see, this will not stop until we stand up for what is ours. We do not need to do the riots like they did in Ferguson and Baltimore. We need to take our cues from Martin Luther King and Gandhi. Peaceful resistance.
KrisAnne Hall Show. She's Liberty's lobbyist.
So if you need to know more about this understanding of federal occupation of our lands, may I invite you to go to my website, KrisAnneHall.com, KrisAnnehall.com. Listen to the podcasts. Read the articles. Understand the Constitution. And know that there is something worth standing for. Something worth standing for. I was on the Doug Steffen show this morning before my radio show. And I want to publicly thank Doug Steffen for being the media that takes a stand and wants the narrative to be told truthfully. I have heard from Joe Miller in Alaska. And I want to publicly thank Joe Miller for being the media who wants the truth to be heard about this forceful federal occupation, unlawful occupation of our land. And the message must be, as Martin Luther King and as Gandhi demanded, that we must resist. We must not comply. But we must not be the aggressors. We must know that we have a right to stand. We have an obligation to stand. And we have a duty to stand. We are standing on the righteousness of our God-given rights, our God-given authority. And we do not have to defend that position to anyone. When all else is done, we must continue to stand. We can't let this go unnoticed. We can't let this continue. We need more peaceful protests. We need more farmers and ranchers. And we need more Americans who are willing to tell the federal government, we will not allow you to occupy our land anymore. And we will not allow you to destroy our Constitution. We will not allow you to transgress these boundaries. I want to ask you something. Why isn't this being discussed at the presidential debates? This is an action being conducted by an executive agency. Why aren't our Republican candidates talking about how they would never let this happen under their watch? Why don't we have Republican candidates who are saying we will return these lands back to their rightful owners, the states and the people, and we will allow them to preserve their lands in the federal government? Where is this narrative from your constitutional presidential candidates, Republicans? Where are they? Why aren't we talking about these things? These are the things that are important to America. These are the things, of all the stupid questions that you're going to hear on the Fox debate, will you hear something as important as the future executive kicking the federal government off of state land? Will there be anybody bold enough to do something and say something like that? Will we actually have a constitutional presidential candidate who stands up and says, no, the Bureau of Land Management has no right to exist and the FBI has no right to force federal occupation of land? That's your vetting question now, America. And that's your test of the reality of these presidential debates. I'm going to let Lavoy Finnegan close out today's show. God bless. See you tomorrow.
Having said that, we want you to know that we desire a good relationship. We desire respect. We desire a mutual respect towards you and towards those things you hold sacred. And we hope to hear from you. And that is what I have to say to America and to you of the Paiute Nation of Oregon. And so thanks. And I hope to see you soon.